Chapter 18. The Riches of Redemption. They that thrust in their wealth and boast themselves in the multitude of their riches, none of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give to God a ransom for him. Psalm 49, 6-7. It cannot be your name, signor. I know you're fibbing. It cannot be, Sofia said, obviously amused. Why, pray tell, couldn't it be my name? Dan said, grinning. Let me get you a basin and some water to wash yourself. Perhaps after you have freshened up your face and mind, you'll be able to explain why you were so keen to tell me a fib. With these words, Sofia turned away and went to the back of the house, where Dan presumed there was a water pump. She came back a few minutes later with a basin, ewer, and a towel and a bar of soap rolled in it. This is very nice of you, Dan said, taking the burden from her and putting it on the table. And now do tell me why I should not be called Generoso Ricciulli. Wash yourself first and I'll see you outside when you're done, Sofia replied, leaving Dan to his ablutions and quite baffled. When Sofia appeared in the doorway, she looked at Arnaldo first and then at Damianos and Gustavo, who were standing by the carriage. She crossed her arms over her chest. Now you tell me the truth, Arnaldo. Who is the gentleman in my house? There's only one truth to tell, Sofia. His name is Generoso Ricciulli from Castelnuovo di Conza. Why are you asking? Do you know otherwise? Damianos, who had been listening, thought it was time to intervene. I am so sorry, signorina, but Signor Ricciulli is the man he says he is. He is travelling back to his hometown before finally leaving Italy for other shores. Do you know this not to be true? Signor, I don't want to sound contradictory, but I know not of a Generoso Ricciulli. My grandmother talked often of a grandparent named Costanzo Ricciulli. She was born in the Ricciulli family herself. This is the reason for doubting, Signor. And you could not believe you were meeting a parent, perhaps in the person of Generoso, is that it? Yes, that is such an amazing coincidence, Signor. What is? They heard Dan say as he came out of the house. What coincidence are you referring to? Sofia tells us that her great-grandparent was born in the Ricciulli family, and this is the reason she thought you were fibbing. Dan erupted in laughter. So glad to have met you, Sofia, he said, but I think you should have a chat with my cousin, Vicente. He turned to Gustavo, who had remained mute and obviously perplexed. He's a descendant of Constanzo. I don't believe it, Sofia said. This is all a big, devious lie, isn't it, Ronaldo? She was not convinced and now quite annoyed. Gustavo stepped close to Sofia. Please take a moment, signorina, and tell me that I am a liar when I say that my name is Vicente. Tears purling at the rim of her eyes, Sofia whispered, I cannot tell a lie, but I cannot believe another Ricciulli crossed our path. We have been so honoured and blessed for knowing Gaspar and Antonio were so high in the church, and that we had a parent of this name, that I could not accept that another came to my house today. I am sorry, Vicente. Very well, then, Damianos said. And if you are ready to continue our journey, Generoso, let's depart instantly. Thank you again, Sofia, for the water, soap and towel. I left everything on the kitchen table, Dan said as he climbed aboard the carriage after Damianos. I am quite sure I will see you again, Sofia, Gustavo told her, kissing the top of her right hand. He then stepped into the carriage and closed the door on him. Ronaldo, for his part, still a little bit puzzled, kissed Sofia on the forehead again before regaining his perch. He then reined his horses round the courtyard before whipping them at a fast trot onto the road. Is she the great-granddaughter of Constanzo, then? Gustavo asked, still visibly mystified as they resumed their travel. Yes, Gustavo, Sofia is your great-great-granddaughter, Damianos replied. She is the great-granddaughter of the woman you married when you returned to the city of Salerno. Unfortunately, you didn't have a chance to see her grandmother growing up, but now you might have opportunities to visit her again. Why was she so leery to accept that she still had relations living in the area? Dan asked. It was as if I couldn't have been a Ricciulli, for she considered the family as having died or being gone to some other parts of the world. Yes, her reaction was a little strange. She only heard talk about the Ricciulli family, remember? She must have thought that the family had moved away, or she had been told that there had been a feud of some sort in their midst. Anyway, was that the reason for which we took the road instead of you transporting us to our destination, Damianos? Partly, yes, Dan, but I truly wanted to show you the area where your close ancestors grew up. There are so many things that cannot be described or even photographed. You need to go and visit the places of your ancestry to understand the life they lived or faced. Yes, that's another question that came to mind when you mentioned our departure to other shores to Sofia. Why would I do something like that? Didn't I have all the reasons in the world to stay in Italy? You might have had many reasons to remain in Italy, Dan, but many more to leave, I can assure you." "What do you mean by that?" Gustavo asked. "And did I also go with Generoso to Colombia?" "No, Gustavo, you stayed in Castellanova, but Vicente didn't fare so well and died early, leaving no children behind." "You mean my branch of the family died with Vicente?" "It appears so, as far as I can tell anyway," Damianos replied. "Well, let's go and see what drove me away then," Dan concluded, crossing his arms over his chest. Several hours later, and nearing nightfall, Ronaldo called down, announcing their arrival at the next village, Fontana Rosa. It was nestled in the valley between two impressive mountain ranges and gorgeous hillsides covered with luxurious vineyards. The view from the carriage had been quite pleasant for the past hour, which prompted Dan to say, "I really don't see why I would want to leave this scenery." Damianos chuckled. "But did you know that these mountains are receiving unstable and seismic faults?" "You mean this region has been subject to earthquakes?" Gustavo sounded doubtful. "Yes, and quite a few of them very destructive. In fact, the village of Castelnuovo di Conza has been hit by several occasions, and the damages were massive every time." "Is that one of the reasons for my leaving?" Damianos nodded. "Absolutely, yet let's not dwell on the subject for now, and let's see what the inn has to offer. I bet a bottle of their best wine wouldn't go astray." Dan guffed. "You're becoming quite a connoisseur, aren't you? And for a cat, I don't think it would be a good idea." "Poppycock!" Damianos exclaimed, alighting from the carriage in front of a handsome house. "Did you say poppycock? Quite British of you, Damianos," Dan commented as he followed the shepherd down the steps and out of the carriage. "Are we going to England next, by any chance?" Gustavo inquired, a grin on his face. Now, gentlemen, may I remind you that I am a well-travelled man. Cat, I mean." And it's with smiles on their faces that the three men crossed the threshold of the establishment. "Signors, beneventio to our modest hostelry," an older fellow bellowed as he came to greet the new guests at the door. "Would you need a room for the night?" "3 rooms would be much preferred, my good man," Damianos replied. Yes, by all means," the owner said, going round his desk to hand the guests' register to the new arrivals. Once the formality was completed and the luggage was brought up the stairs, Ronaldo told them that he would see them in the morning. "And where are you sleeping, Ronaldo?" Dan asked. "In the stable, signor Ricciulli, with the other drivers. Why do you inquire, signor?" "Just curious, that's all." "Will you be eating to your appetite?" "Oh, I'm sure I will, signor. The innkeepers are usually good people. They know that if we're not fed and lodged properly, we would not recommend their property to the next travellers." Dan had to smile. "That's simply good marketing, Ronaldo, very good." "What is marketing, signor?" the wide-eyed driver asked. "Making sure your clients, your travellers, are always staying at the best inns is what is called marketing." "Well, thank you, signor. I will remember that." As the evening progressed, and after another nourishing meal and a jug of the local wine, the 3 men retired to their respective rooms. Dan was restless, however. He was tired from the journey, of course, but Damianos' comments were teasing the recesses of his mind. He had been told that his family had emigrated from Italy to South America and had lived in Colombia and Venezuela in the mid-20th century, but he hadn't known about Generoso moving to Colombia in the latter part of the 19th century. He went down to the rear of the tavern, where the innkeeper had furnished his patio with chairs, tables, and some awnings to protect his guests from the sun rays during the day. He sat down at a table. The place was deserted at that hour, but Dan didn't mind. It had been a long time since he turned his thoughts to Malou and his children, Stefano, Daniel, and Gabby. They were far from here, but close to his heart. Redemption, what was it really, he asked himself? They that trust in their wealth and boast themselves in the multitude of their riches, none of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give to God a ransom for him. The biblical verse came back to his mind. It was the same verse he had used to defend his position against the Red Cardinal. No man can pay ransom for his redemption. Only God would decide when and how he would finally reach his own redemption. As Salangi, his guardian angel, had told him once, "You have a long road to go before atonement can be reached." And how true the statement had been. Every single day that passed, every single minute, would bring him closer to his final state, out of limbo. "And what could really occupy your mind so to prevent you from sleeping, Dan?" Damianos asked as he came to sit beside him. Dan looked up at the night sky for a moment before he replied, "The road is as long as the Pentateuch shall be, isn't it?" Perhaps it is, yet you should never tire of the teachings you gain on this road. You are now on the verge of crossing another threshold to begin another journey to far away and unknown land, But you're going with a mind enriched with learning and a heart filled with new ventures. Have you learned everything that was taught to you thus far on this trip, Dan, or has it all been wasted on you?" "If you mean do I have regrets, no, I haven't, Damianos. I can't say that anything we have seen, heard, or learned thus far has been wasted. Those are the riches of mind that I will carry through centuries to come. Whether I am born in a noble family or not, I feel very much enriched from the experience." "What do you think your children will have learned from your departure, or the decision you made to sacrifice yourself so that your son could return to his present?" "As I said, Damianos, I have no regret, only praise and gratefulness for the Lord's decision. I would not have been able to live with myself, but I decided otherwise. There was no alternative, besides which I was at fault. I never should have gone through with such foolishness as wanting to race my bike again after all that had happened the first time. It was that selfishness that almost cost the life of my son. I have seen now what Antonio Ricciulli had sacrificed to save many from fate worse than death. I have heard the rebuke Humili gave to the Inquisitor of Naples. I saw that King Arthur had done to members of his family, my ancestors, and I could not be more proud to be a descendant of such noble men and women." "Well said, Dan, and all the more power to you for your thoughts. Someone out there is watching very closely, and I am sure he is satisfied with what he has seen thus far."